Right, fellas, listen up.
I need to do it again now, boy.
Fellas!
And on this week's episode, we're going to talk about alcohol and the effects of mental health. And this week we introduce Rob Benson.
Hello everyone, welcome back. Looking forward to another great week of podcasting.
And Adam Benwell.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm back. I've been away for 4 weeks with filming, so I've enjoyed listening to you lot talking for the last 3 weeks, I have to say. But yeah, good to be back.
He's back, baby. Hey.
And Stephen Benwell.
Thanks for having me back, Chesney. Second episode that I make an appearance on. So yeah, very much looking forward to it. So thanks again, guys.
And the disappointed fan favourite of Stephen Pearce.
It's getting worse every week. I just won't be here next time.
It's a great running joke. I really enjoy it.
I'm enjoying it.
We just how bad we shit on Steve Pearce in the intro.
Yeah.
But I love it. Yeah.
And finally, Rory Sweeney.
Yep, now demoted down to the third best left back at club level, but I'm going to have Rear of the Year this year.
And as always, I'm Chesney Jennings. So this week we're going to understand the impact of alcohol. We're going to explore the effects with men and the mental health, from the immediate impact on mood and its long-term effects on mental well-being. Do you want to start, Rory?
Yeah, so what I'd say in terms of alcohol, firstly, I love it. I love a beer.
Yeah.
There's nothing better sometimes after football, having a nice beer after it.
Yeah.
But recently I took about 3 weeks off it, for no reason really, because Becky was doing it as well, and I thought I'll join her. And then I outlasted her. I was like, right.
How long did she
How long? Yeah.
I think she went like 2 weeks, to be fair. So she's done well.
I've done really well, actually.
And what I noticed over the 3 weeks, my mood was lifted, had so much more energy, all the normal stuff you always hear, like you're always feeling better. But I didn't really put myself out there into like the social situations. Like, I didn't go to the pub because like I don't think I have the mental strength to go to a pub and not drink. So it's like trying to find that balance. Obviously now I'm back drinking, but it's quite hard, I think, when you're not drinking, for me personally, to put myself into those social situations.
So do you think? So I think this might be a question we're going to chuck on in a second. Do you think it was interesting you mentioned about they're not going to serve a fruity cider in a working man's club? Then leads to the next question of, do you think there's a bit of a stereotype that like men should drink beer because it's the thing that men
100%.
drink?
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I think 100% that is the case.
Yeah.
Have a
men are
shandy
expected to
or a top.
drink beer.
But I like a shandy, I don't mind.
No, I like
That's
shandy.
it.
Yeah,
I
like shandy.
But for me, when we're all
Shandy.
out together...
4 shandies and drive home.
But there is a stigma in, like, for example, Manchester, where it's like a shandy drinking softie is somebody from London.
Yeah.
If you order a shandy, they will look down on you because, like, you're not.
I have a funny story that when I was in Manchester, I was doing a panto tour. We basically went for a drink, and I was at the bar. There was a guy from Manchester standing next to me, and he basically, as I ordered my drink, he was like, "Oh, you're getting a shandy," in his Manc voice. And
Do you want to give it a go?
You've got to do that.
You're better at Manc.
I can't do Manc.
Uh,
Try and sound like Liam Gallagher.
I'll do it.
You go on, give it.
okay.
Just put an F sound on the end of every word.
It's got sunshine and then go.
Okay.
Are you having a shandy? No.
Aren't you a professional actor?
So anyway,
Our kid.
he's he said, "Oh yeah, you getting a drink? You're from down south." I went, "Oh yeah, I'll have a shandy." And then he basically was saying that we're soft.
So you knocked him out.
We had a bit of banter, at the bar, and then I think we did a baby Guinness, or we did a shot, and I had a bad reaction to it. I basically,
As in you don't like shots.
and I threw up on, like, I weren't feeling great, and I threw up.
At the bar.
And basically, like, no, at my table.
Oh,
We've
right,
gone and
yeah.
sat down again. I threw up, and then basically it was on the floor. And then I went to the toilet quickly. The mate I was with, who was doing the tour with, came into the toilet and was basically like, "Oh, you've been kicked out." And I was like, "Yeah, fair enough." And then and they were like, "And you've been sick on someone's coat." and so I've been like, "Oh shit, all right, fair enough. I need to go apologise, and I'll buy them a drink." And then,
Coke.
Yeah.
and then,
The dry cleaning would be better,
and then
yeah.
as I walked out and I walked towards the table, the guy looked at me and he went, "Was it you?" And then I said, "I'm so sorry." and then got told to leave by the bouncers.
So when I go out, I prefer to have a non-alcoholic beer because when you sat at the table, it looks like everybody's got an alcoholic drink because it always makes me feel a bit uncomfortable if I've got a Coca-Cola and say all of us are having a drink and you've all got pints and I've just got like a lemonade or a Coca-Cola. So for me, I always feel like a societal pressure to have an alcoholic drink. So that's a good way out of me not drinking is having not a shandy, but like a 0% alcohol, and then I feel more comfortable that I'm not. I think I used to do it myself when someone was not drinking. You wouldn't like bring them into the conversation as much because like, oh, they're not joking or they're not laughing, they're not getting on the same level as me. But I feel when I have a lookalike drink with me, I feel like I'm more part of the conversation, more part of the jokes. I get included a little bit more. I'm not a big drinker anymore, so I just feel like that's why I like non-alcoholic beers.
I don't like I understand what you're saying, but like with non-alcoholic beers, the fact that some of them are like nearly basically the same price as a pint.
Yeah.
Like you say,
I begrudge paying
but
for something.
So there is a reason why they are that price is because they burn the ethanol out at the end of production, so it still goes through the same vigorous way of making it, but they have to burn the ethanol out of it.
That doesn't bother me that much. Like at the end of the day, I'm paying
You feel like you get less for your
seven
money.
odd quid for something that's not giving me any sort of
Enjoyment.
feeling or enjoyment.
I mean,
I understand what you mean about
Yeah,
being part of it a bit more, but I'd much rather just have
I
a
actually
Coke.
think that's quite sad that you said that you feel like people would leave you out. Like, I've never felt like I'd be left out for not drinking.
Yeah,
And also
I
having a
agree.
Coke on the table, there could be a vodka in it. Like, it doesn't matter that it's not the same drink. But I have noticed that if I haven't had a drink and everyone else has, I feel myself getting on a different level. And then I sort of retreat in a bit more, and then I'll be like, I'm just gonna leave early.
Yeah.
So I've tried before doing like dry January, and you get to like the second or third week, and everyone's like, you know, if you go to a few pubs and then you make it to a bar and you still haven't had a drink, and everyone else is like having a great time and dancing, I am not comfortable to dance without having a drink.
Quick,
so I'm
Steve,
out.
What's dry January?
So that is when you don't drink through January.
Yeah, see, I've not heard of that one. I'm not really going to.
Not heard of that one?
No, it's not me.
Not gonna be doing that one.
Not gonna be this year.
I wouldn't-
Or probably any year.
I wouldn't recommend. I'd actually do it for February because it's the shortest month.
Hey, that's a much
Yeah.
better shout.
I thought it was Stoptober. That's what the.
That's
Stop totally smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, was I thought that was
Oh, no.
stop drinking alcohol?
What about No Nut
Stop
November?
Yeah, I was
Right.
I haven't done any of it.
Yeah, basically, I haven't quit anything.
I'm just gonna say something with No Nut November. It's really bad for you if you do not like produce cum in the month. It's really, really bad for you.
And if you want to find out more about fertility, go back to our first episode on the pod.
Going back to dry January as well, I did it. I don't think I've got a problem with drinking, which I know is what a lot of people say. Probably do have a problem with drinking, but I did it 1 year, and I was like, I didn't feel like my mood changed that much. I didn't feel much healthier. I just felt, because remember you'd go for like a meal or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'd come, and then I just wouldn't have a wine or anything, or
Yeah.
a beer or anything, and it just felt like I was just being a bit more boring.
Yeah. It feels like you're missing out. I always
Yeah,
feel that.
and
Because I've been doing that recently.
because I didn't have a problem. I didn't feel like I had a problem. It felt like I was just spiting myself to not go out, and I did one night out with my friends Pav and Gerps, and we went to Tiger. It was one of their birthdays.
What a cool
And-
bad
And they were all having a few drinks, and I just felt weird sitting in a club.
Yeah, you get FOMO.
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
that's why I really like non-alcoholic beer because I don't feel like I'm missing out.
Yeah,
then.
yeah. I felt with dry January in particular, I never really understood it. I've always thought to myself, if I don't want to drink, I'm not going to drink. But if I do want to drink, I'll have a drink. But it seems arbitrary to set yourself 31 days to not drink. Like everyone, if you don't want to drink, fine, say, I'm not going to drink for 10 days. But then say something comes up, you really want to have a few drinks at, then why don't you just have that drink? And it just seemed pointless to me.
I think it's because December tends to be the most alcoholic.
That's
and so then,
right,
it's like people think like it's like with like weight as well. You go, well, I've had a really bad month. I'm gonna try and be good.
Yeah.
And 31 days is a good challenge. It feels like a
detox.
Yeah. But I do get it. Like why that set amount of time? You could just like say for one day I'm not gonna drink this day, but it just depends if you like a challenge. I quite like challenges. So.
The amount of money you'd save as well in those 31 days is mental.
I get that, but you can just cut it down though. You can just cut it down. You can just say,
but like even like 1-2 years ago when I first started work in the office in the city, I used to go downstairs at work we used to live at home, so I had so much money like spare. I used to go down to work. Monday I'd have 1 or 2 beers, go home. Tuesday 1 or 2 beers, go home. Wednesday 2 or 3, just Wednesday, getting close to the weekend.
Hump day.
Thursday 3 or 4. Friday then you have a big night out, and I'm like, that was a lot of. I used to do that pretty much every week, and I wouldn't really drink Saturday and Sunday. So like I think now I don't drink as much. I now realise, looking back, how much I drank. I was probably operating like 75% for like 2 years.
Yeah.
But now I just drink once or twice a week. I'm like, I feel so much better, so much healthier. All of that, and I've got so much more money.
Yeah. Do you think? Because I think at the minute, certainly lots of people within this group and within our sort of wider football group, is we are probably a little bit better Monday to certainly Thursday. We're all a lot healthier and cleaner. And then certainly for me, because we've got football on a Saturday, I don't tend to go out on a Friday as much. But it does then mean when it comes to a Saturday, I like to try and pile
Binge
6
culture.
days. Yeah, it does become a bit bingey on a Saturday.
Yeah,
and we're in a bit of a routine, certainly during the football season, where Saturday becomes like a bit of a big one every sort of week. And Sunday then becomes a bit of a wasted day if I'm waking up a bit later or a bit hungover or whatever.
We were talking about this yesterday, and I was saying to you how when I had that first drink, I find it really hard to stop.
Yeah.
And I know that's what alcoholics will say. I wouldn't regard myself as an alcoholic or anything like that. I don't think it's overly serious on me. But having that first drink, like the saying, you've got a taste for it, and I just want to continue because I'm having a good time, and it's mostly the company. It's not just the alcohol. I can never sit by myself and just think, I'm going to have this drink. I like hanging out with my friends, and it's an excuse to hang out with my friends and chat with my friends and people that I like. And I think that's one of the main things. I just want that feeling to continue. I can't ever go to myself, all right, I need to go home now.
Can you sit at a bar or a pub and not have a drink? Because I always have to have a drink in my hand. So I'm sort of the same as in like if we go out on a Saturday, and I don't really seem to, especially if you drink consistently over hours, I don't seem to have a limit, and you just keep going.
Yeah.
But my thing now is that like in my head I start counting the calories and I start thinking about how much money I've spent, and it makes me not want to drink. But then because I'm already out, I can't not.
Yeah.
So there's a weird sort of like.
I'm Steve. I'm not a 1 pint. I'm 2 pints. Like 1 pint, I can have 1 pint and go, no problem. And I've got a bit of a stigma at work with me on a Friday where I'm like the 1.5 pint man that goes because I've got to drive back from work on a Friday and I've got to come home. All the teachers will come down and I'll be there and I'll have one and then they'll be like, I guess stay a bit longer. I'm like, I would like to stay a bit longer. That whole like you want to hang around a bit more. But I also begrudge paying £3.50 for a pint of Coke. Like that same idea of paying like £6 for a non-alcoholic beer, like a pint of fizzy water with some syrup in it for £3.50 or £4 is just meant. Even like a soda and lime is like £2.50 for water and a bit of cordial, which is a £2 bottle. And I just get in a mindset of like I just don't want to pay that. I would like you. I see more value in paying £6 for a pint of Guinness than I do paying £3.50 for a pint of soda and lime, and I enjoy it more. So then I quite often get in a habit where I then go, I'll have another half, and then I'll always go home. But I definitely have a 2-drink barrier where if I've had 2 pints, I'm then like, right boys, we're on here. We could be on here.
We're leaving
like,
the car.
We're leaving the car. We're going home, or let's start phoning around everyone and saying I just want to go out tonight and stuff. So I'm with you, Steve. We did very much agree.
Which isn't necessarily healthy. I'm not saying at all that's necessarily a healthy thing to have, but I'm just saying that's the way that I am.
But I think we all both agree that we could not have the first drink.
Exactly.
I could go to the pub
with
my friends and have 3 or 4 soda limes and then go home. That's not a problem.
Because you know there's a time limit as well.
Exactly that. So if we're saying like, let's say for example, I know I'll get up for a flight or something in the morning and we want to go out, like anyone's like, I just want to go out for a pub. Yeah, I will, but I'll just have 2 or 3 soda limes and I'm there for 2 or 3 hours and then I can go. That's not an issue. It's when like you begin in a social setting, like on a Saturday after football. We finish the game, everyone's having a good time. You start drinking, you're like, oh, and then you start it just flows naturally. Like, I don't think it's a problem. I just don't think if you don't start, you can stop, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always social. Always, I'll never drink at home by myself. Like, even if I'm watching the football or anything like that, I never drink by myself at home, ever. It's only when I'm out, that's when I'll get pints.
I love a beer at home.
Do you?
Yeah. But I'm not going to sit there. I'm not sitting there
Yeah.
getting like a 24 crater and sat there on the sofa and just doing them all. I like last night I went home while you guys went out and I just had one beer after my curry. I just sat there and watched the football, watched the film, and that was lovely. Sometimes I have a whiskey, depending on the mood.
Yeah. There is something quite nice about certain. For me, it's like wine. Like a nice glass of red wine tastes really, really good with like a nice dinner. So like if I'm cooking dinner and it's like a nice pasta and I've got some red wine in the house, I will have a glass of red wine because I really enjoy specifically drinking that. And I feel like I have a different association with wine compared to other drinks. Whereas wine feels like it's a meal drink or an evening drink. I can have one or two glasses and not get carried away at all. Whereas like pints of Guinness or like vodka soda limes, once that floodgate starts, it just carries on.
Yeah.
Whereas wine, I can very much have a glass and go, oh, that was nice, cheers, and then go to bed.
During dry January, I think I got to like the third week, and I've been going out to the pub, and I went to Patrick's, and I went up to the bar, and I'd already ordered a lime soda, and I don't know what, because you just tap, I didn't know what the price was, and I ordered a lime soda, and I saw it, and it was the same price as a pint. I went, fuck it, I'll have a pint instead, just caved in and there, got bang on it the rest of the night, and I had a great time. And then people coming back going, how's dry January going? I was necking a pint, I'm like, fantastic, mate.
But for me, I think the whole January is great, but come February, I think I've done January before a few years ago, and then come February, I think I drank the most I've ever drunk in my life. Because I was like, oh yeah, I haven't drunk since December. And I was like, oh yeah, it must be good now. And then just smashed it. And then I think the realisation is when I looked at my bank account and I had spunked, I don't know how much money on alcohol, because it's not cheap. I think it's like nearly £70 a night I was spending. And you imagine doing that 3-4 times a week. That's about 200 quid a week just on alcohol, whereas now I'm a bit older, I tend not to go out as much. You boys know when you invite me out, I don't really come out much unless there's an occasion, because I don't want to spend that money. I much prefer like when we go over to yours, Rob, and we get a few beers and there's something involved or a party at home. But I just don't want to spend that money.
Yeah,
and it has effect. Yeah, and it has
the same price as a pint. I'd much rather have everyone around here.
So, yeah,
and then also you tend to drink less. I find if you're at people's houses, you don't have to have
there's no like
10
race
pints.
or like
it's a quiet. Yeah.
But when I was going through that stage, there was a point where I'd sat at home and I was really worried about, fuck, where's my money gone? How am I going to afford this? How am I going to afford that? Because I've spent so much money, and it started to really affect me.
It's like me when on Saturdays when I come to Beckenham to play football. Obviously, I live nowhere near Beckenham, so it's so easy for me when I get there on Saturday. I just go to Rob, what are we doing after? Because I can't be asked to then spend 2 hours getting home. And my parents live nearby, so I've always got that option. If I just have a big night, I'll just go. Yeah. I'll stay here and just basically sit in the clubhouse, have about 7 or 8.
And
then me and Rob going, right, where are we going? Let's book a cab, where are we going?
Do you think it's harder when you're younger then? Because I was just thinking about like how we can go to Rob's or we can come to ours because we've got places. But when we were younger and we lived with our parents, you can't say I'm having 10 of the boys back to sit in the living room because your mum and dad or whoever is sitting in there watching a film or whatever. So you have to go out to socialise, and then going out means that you're going to spend more money on drinks.
So I think though that is true, and I do agree with that. But I think because I don't have my own place, I then also don't feel like anyone's ever going to question you if you did go out. Like I think if I drank as much as I do now at home, you start getting like, "Why you out last night? Are you going out this night?" Like those just little comments, but they're just checking in with you. And I was like, "Right." Like, so I think probably when I was in my like early mid-20s, I don't actually go out that much. I've definitely escalated as I've got into later 20s. Like, and as my social group has changed a bit over that time as well, where more people like to do more going out. And people are in like settled relationships now, so they know they can just sort of go in and out, without that sort of hole having to feel like they've got to be stuck by their girlfriend's side, or that kind of like early pressure that sometimes you feel when you're in your early 20s and you're sort of finding your way in the world. I've definitely drunk more in the last 5 years than I did in the first 5 years of my 20s.
Do you think it's the societal stuff? So the friends that you have like egg you on a little bit to
sometimes.
Stay out, Rob.
Definitely sometimes. Like last night was a prime example. Wow. I was very much after.
You don't take much convincing.
No, I don't take much convincing, and that's
so you're easily led.
I am easily persuaded. It's not a case of they're ever like forcing me, but they know that if I'm unsure, they just go, "Well, I'm out." Then I'll go, "Oh well, go on then. I'll also be there." The old Eddie Hearn thing. Yeah. Oh, go on then. Like that.
She said that to me earlier.
That is me, but to anything. Like because I just like saying yes to things because I like the social aspect of being out and about.
How do you think alcohol affects your
Penis?
sort of relationships and dating?
Alcohol drives a lot of dates. So like I think the most easy and common date if you're going on a date with someone is to say, do you want to go for a drink? And I think that eases the tension a little bit if you're both nervous and stuff, it's the first time meeting. So quite often that's a really easy option lots of times. I think once you get past that initial stage, it's just like being with anyone else really. So if they enjoy drinking, then I'll enjoy drinking. But if they're not much drinkers, I'm not going to be like, oh, come out every time. Because it's not really their cup of tea, you know.
It's a facilitator of talking bullshit, isn't it?
It is.
And it's...
To be fair, yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
I don't need any help with
People are more... If you're about 3 drinks down on a date, maybe both of you are probably maybe a little bit more awkward. If you're about 3 pints down, you...
Barriers
I guess you don't judge what they're saying as much.
Yeah.
They won't judge what you're saying. Like you said, barriers are down as well, and it's you haven't really got that internal monologue saying I shouldn't say this, I shouldn't say this as well, and just the conversation flows a lot easier.
It's definitely easier to tell a girl you like.
Social
getting
lubricant
ripped.
as well. That's another good
That's
saying.
such courage.
Social lubricant.
Social lubricant is a great term. But it's definitely easier to tell a girl you like getting whipped when you're 4 pints deep. Than
Yeah, exactly.
It's first time in.
At your peak then, Rob, when you're going out on
Whoa,
dates.
he said I'm not at my peak.
Well, I don't know.
Oh, harsh.
You're very much on the down slope.
In the final 5 years of this.
So, how often would you go on a date a week? In a week, would you do like 3 dates a week, 4 days a week? And how much of that would then you would consume alcohol?
Yeah, like 4 days a week.
I don't know. Even I
Yeah,
don't know.
like in there are definitely been peaks where you've lined like a couple up in a row, so you have like one on a Friday, one on a Saturday, and then you might re-see one of them the next week. So in like a rolling 7-day period, you may go on 3 or 4 dates a week with 1 or 2 different girls. There's definitely been weeks like that, and then you end up going, like you say, I'll go and meet up with a girl in Brixton, and then the next week you go and meet up with a girl, and then it just goes on. So there was one at the beginning of summer where we said we were going to go out in Brixton Jam, and we sat and drank all day in Brixton Jam. Thank you, Stephen, for that. And then we drank in Brixton Jam, and then another girl was like, "Oh, well, I'm available." So okay, what do you want to do? She said, "Oh, do you want to go for a drink?" So I was like, "Yeah, we're in Brixton." I'm like, oh, I've done this date already, but fine, you know. And yeah, it can get quite expensive, and I think the pressure on a guy to always buy the first drink and maybe the second drink and maybe even the third drink starts adding up a little bit. And it's nice to do things that aren't drinking.
Yeah.
But
With drinking.
as Steve said,
Yeah.
it's always easier to ease that tension.
So how much alcohol would you have consumed, do you reckon? And then when you look back at it, and then you look at your bank account and you think, fuck.
How many units, Rob?
I'll be
Yeah,
honest with
How
you.
many units?
I
Come
wanna
on.
know
Give us
the
rough
units.
figures.
Did you drive?
In terms of cost-benefit analysis, if it ends in a route, then it doesn't matter how many drinks I've had. But if you don't see them ever again...
Ends in a route.
What does that mean?
Yeah, can you explain what that
What
is?
is that?
it's an Australian term for shagging.
Right. Ends in a route back.
What does shagging mean?
Root back.
Well, it's when the birds and the bees...
I'm only young, you see.
This one's for the ladies out there. If you're feeling lonely and looking for someone to love, why not give Rob Benson a try? With that mischievous grin and that bushy beard, you are guaranteed to have a laugh. And let's not forget, he's a teacher, which means he cares for the future of our generation. Oh, and did I forget to mention that I've heard from a number of sources that he is a sensational lover. So, if you're in the market for a caring, kind, funny, lovable rogue, then reach out to the Not So Old Boys podcast, and we can point you in the right direction.
Has anyone had any regrets after a night of drinking?
I've had many a night where you wake up, but I'm not going to talk any particular story, but I wake up quite often with anxiety.
Yeah.
And it's when you have, sometimes when I drink, you forget like moments of a night and you think, oh, what have I done? What have I said?
yeah.
But even after your night out, Adam, I woke up and I wasn't even that drunk. But there was bits I couldn't remember, like when we...
You made a fool of yourself.
Yeah.
All night.
Why did you get your cock out of the bar?
Well, I don't know.
It was so disrespectful what you did.
But like we got, and I woke up next day and I felt fine. Didn't even feel like I was that drunk. And I woke up and went, right, what did I do?
Yeah.
First of all, didn't dress
Apology
up.
messages.
First of all, didn't dress up properly.
Yeah, that was true.
Yeah.
That was tragic.
Yeah,
That
it
was
was.
such
Apologies, but that was the first one. So I was like, now I know for next year if I'm invited.
Actually, I've been thinking. Adam said, "What stories have you got?" I've got. The story doesn't paint me in the best light. It's the worst I've ever been with alcohol. And I think I was maybe 16 or 17.
Oh, you can't drink at that age, mate.
Yes, you can.
You can. It was with dinner.
It was a carvery.
So I bought a carver and I took it to this house party.
And you're now Perry cider or mead.
And I think we started with a few beers, and I had a litre of vodka. And I remember I was drinking the vodka, I was going through it slowly, and I went back and I saw this girl pouring out my vodka. So I just poured it all into a pint glass, bit of mixer, and just necked it. And there was a lot there. And then I was like, I'm fine. And then I was not fine. And then I was out in the garden, and I have flashes of memory and what other people have told me. And I was standing out the back holding to a fence, just chundering everywhere. And I was like passing out, falling into the bushes, like falling into the fence. So they had Googled that you need to eat bread, but wet it. So they were stuffing wet bread down my mouth. And they were like, you need to eat this. And I was sort of chewing it and then just throwing up more.
Don't talk about that. Please don't talk about that. That's my absolute worst case. That was a pure...
And I don't think it was good bread. I think it was just white bread. And I was like, that is poor. That needs to be seasoned. Multigrain. I need my formula in there, 100%. But then I think the parents came back and they were like, right, we either need to call an ambulance or we need to call your parents. And then one of my mates who lived like across the road was like, no, I'm going to take him to my house. Dragged me to his house, chucked me into bed. And then apparently they were up all night gaming, and I woke up in the morning and I was fine, but I didn't remember any of it.
Yeah, Powell's recovery is strong as a kid.
Yeah.
I remember all the way through uni was.
Yeah. Someone said, do you want a sausage sandwich? I went,
actually, it's an interesting question, or sort of point there. You're talking about house parties and stuff when you were 16. I think it's always interesting to find out when people's first exposures to alcohol. And sort of when you first start drinking, I think. Wow,
I don't know that age, yes.
That's when I first saw my dad having a beer.
I think. No, I definitely remember as a kid, my mum and dad would always be drinking with their meals and stuff, and I think maybe even like 8 or 9 or 10, I'd have like a shandy where my dad would pour like a tiny bit of lager into a lemonade or whatever around dinner just to make you feel a bit more adult. Legend. And then I think probably
he's taking a picture. What was the thing before Facebook? What was the
MySpace.
MySpace. Rob's like, MySpace.
And then
you're single.
Sending it to the girls on MSN.
Hey, how do you know I did that? But no, definitely. I think probably from about 12, 13, 14 in my full grunge emo days of skinny black jeans and like Michael Morance hoodies and long hair and stuff. There was a big group of us that used to go and hang around in Bromley Park and spend our entire afternoon on Saturday trying to get served, and then whip together all of our pocket money and newspaper round money and stuff, and just buy loads of alcohol and start drinking. I was doing that probably like 13, 14 until I got caught one day by the police. And I had just gone and trekked on a bus all the way to Grove Park to pick up 20 different flavours of WKDs and Wickeds and
Grove Park
and like VKs and stuff. Yeah, it's where the shop would service, and like all the different Bacardi Breezer flavours and stuff. I had a massive backpack of like rattling bottles, and like there's a load of us in the woods, and I started cracking them open, and then like they walked down through Shortlands Park and they see us, and all our mates just scattered, like they just started sprinting. And I was like, oh, what are they going to do? Like, it's not illegal, I don't think. And then my other friend was stood there with a drink in his hand, and I was like, I'm not going to run away with a massive bottle of alcohol. And they sort of came in, gave me a girl telling off, and like searched all my stuff, and like went for a whole proper process. And they're like, right, we're not going to arrest you, but we do need to take you home. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, we're going to take you home. I'm like, in a car? I'm like, no, in a van. Right, in the back of a police van.
Bully van.
In literally the back of a bully van, right? So there's me, like 14, all my grunge outfit on. One of my mates has also like sort of picked up for this. And the one thing my dad always said to me as a kid, like the whole way through being a kid, he was like, I don't really mind what scrapes you get into. You do not bring the police home to the front door. Like it's like a pride thing, right? Like, yeah, there are a few bodies in the garden. And he was like, yeah, he was always saying to me, like, the one thing you don't do. And then I was like, I'm in some shit here. So like I was on the phone in the back, and I was like, I called my mum up. I was like, Mum, I'm on my way home in a police van. I'll be home in about 2 minutes. And I could just hear her like she was like, I could just hear her like raging, and then that was it. Like all hell was breaking loose. Like, they pulled up. My front door was already open. My dad stood on the driveway, like, arms crossed, watching me get unloaded out of a police van, like a full riot police van, not like a little small one, like the sort of one you transport prisoners around in, right, on like a sleepy road in Highfield Drive. All the neighbours are like opening through the blinds and having a look through, like, what's going on here? And he's like beetroot in the face with anger, and like the police officer like brings my stuff in, and like dashes the alcohol everywhere, and he's just like slamming doors and screaming with his voice, like his blood vessels popping out of his head. And I'm just there like shitting myself, and he grounded me for a year.
A year?
A year. I wasn't allowed out for a year. So if you wonder why I can't head a football, so I was my prime development era, I was stuck indoors, and you can't learn to head footballs on FIFA, alright?
Also WKD as well.
I know.
I'd have been just disappointed.
But here's the best bit about it it wasn't the alcohol, that wasn't the issue. Like, he didn't have a problem with having the drinks. It was the fact I got caught and brought home in a police van. So then all the alcohol got stashed in the garage, and then periodically over the next few months while I was in my grounding state, whenever they weren't in the house, I'd just go downstairs, crack all the VKs and WKs open, have a few, swing them out the window, and then back in again. And then, it was a dark time.
I mean, I think my one was I was supposed to play football on a Saturday. Went out on Friday, went to Swansea.
That was a big night.
Yeah, big night in Swansea, because obviously I'm from a small town. And there's literally one train you can catch, and that's the 6:21 in the morning. So I stumbled out of the club, got to the train station at 6:15. I was like, yeah, great. Jumped on the train, fell asleep on the train with a couple of mates. And they're like, gotta wake up now, Chaz. I was like, yeah, okay. No, we're at the wrong stop. I was like, oh, we've probably just gone past. No, we're in Manchester, Piccadilly. We got on the wrong train.
In the wrong country.
we're now in England. I was like, oh, fuck. Phoned up the coach. I'm not going to make the football game, sorry. Why? I'm in Manchester.
That's bad. I've had one nowhere near that calibre of a fuck up.
So I was going to actually go back to... do you remember in episode 2 on the dating where we spoke about how we would cope with breakups and stuff, and Rory, you turned and said you'd deal with alcohol, and that would be your mask, your cover up. Do you think that would lead you down towards a dark route with alcohol?
So I think when I said that, I probably didn't give much explanation at that time. They said I was going to become an alcoholic. So what it'd be more so... That's how I listened to it. I was like... Yeah, you basically said you're going to become an alcoholic. That, not necessarily what I do, but what I do is I broke up. I need to be around people, and the easiest way to be around people is to be in the pub. Yeah. So I'll just be texting all my mates, but should we go pub tonight? Should we go and watch the football? Then you have 1 or 2 beers, and it's just like going back to that old thing of like, I don't have that time that you have with that person, so then you spread your time across all your friends, going pub, having a beer, and I think I'll just find myself just drinking every night, probably more so than what I should and what I'd want to. But it's a way to fill the void of what like you have or had. Because like alcohol, as nice as it is an escape. You do escape for that moment in time. Yeah. So from that time when you're bladdered from like 10 to 1, you escape really the normal stressful life that you had or have. I'm not saying everyone has it, but you do for that moment forget about all your troubles.
Yeah,
it masks it. It doesn't mask. It masks it. It doesn't solve it. Yeah. But that's what I'd get out of it.
Live in the moment more.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't be thinking, whereas if I'm sat at home, you'd just be constantly thinking about, oh, this happened to me, what if I did that, what if I did this? You'd just be constantly replaying whatever reason we broke up.
And I don't think what you were saying as well, you weren't necessarily saying it was the alcohol necessarily, it was more the fact that you need the company, the company and the people, and it's the easiest way to meet people by having a drink.
You've got to keep your mind off it. I think in films and shows though, I think maybe that's what Chesley's alluding to a little bit there as well, is that they always show, after a breakup, a guy sitting there with like a bottle of whiskey, just drinking it on his own. I mean, I
wouldn't do that. I'd have a bottle of whiskey with you, but I wouldn't sit at home. See myself as a bottle of... Yeah, exactly.
What about sending a drunk text to your ex, though?
Oh, yeah, you got to do that at least twice a night.
For a month.
Yeah.
I miss you.
I think that's interesting what your point you made, Steve, actually, in terms of, in the media, alcohol does definitely get displayed as a solution to problems. And I don't think I actually know really. There's 1 or 2 people that come to mind that are actually alcoholics, but I know nationally it is more of a problem than we are probably exposed to.
It depends what I think. I don't know what the definition of alcoholic is.
dependency, I think is what it
It's where so alcoholic can be somebody that drinks daily, or it's someone that's very, as Rob said, very dependent on alcohol. But like I knew a gentleman that would wake up and have a half Carling with his cornflakes, and that's a problem.
Carling's disgusting.
That's the problem, Carling.
You said drinking every day though, but I know people who maybe would have a beer every day. Would that then tend to be, because that doesn't feel like, one beer with dinner or 2 beers during a night doesn't feel to me like an alcoholic.
It's dependency. It's dependency on alcohol.
Yeah.
Is that you can't
not do that without it.
But could that person...
People will have like a glass of wine every night, won't they, right?
But is dependency, is it almost the same as routine? Like, if you're like, I'm having dinner, so I'm going to have a wine, of course I am. And someone said, rather than having a wine, why don't you have a water? And they're like, well, no, it's dinner, I'm going to have a wine. Is that...
And I suppose if it's negatively impacting your life, that alcohol abuse. Whereas if you're... I suppose you can have fully functioning alcoholics, that's a term.
Well, that's they are, functioning alcoholics,
But I suppose it's when it's becoming detrimental and that alcohol abuse is becoming a serious problem. Or you're starting to realise it's a serious problem, or somebody's telling you that's a serious problem, or family and friends coming up to you and saying, look, this needs to stop because of X, Y reason.
Do you think people would do that? If you saw someone in this room and you thought they're drinking a lot more now, and if you don't know the situation, would you say
it? Yeah, if it became
apparent,
like, forget the Saturday footballs or like the Friday nights out, if, I don't know, you had your lunch with Jack, right, your little coffee date, if you walked up to him and he was stinking of alcohol, you'd probably say, what is going on there? Like, because that's not normal for him, and probably not that normal in society.
But that's a very difficult conversation. I think that is, if someone is in that position, they probably either know they're doing it or they're unaware of it, and either way, that's a difficult conversation to have with them.
But that's why
so if they know they're doing it for a reason, they're going to say, I don't care what you say.
Well, that's fine, but you'd have to still approach it in like, what's going on? Like, you'd need to know, like, if they just said to me, oh, my mum's died last night or something, and I've had a heavy drink this morning and I'm getting over it, then you go, oh, well, that's a solution. But if they go, oh, I don't see anything wrong with this, then you might go, well, actually, I think maybe there probably is a bit of a problem here.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know about you guys, but obviously we're a podcast that came together through football. 2 of the biggest names in football that were known to have drinking problems, although there was always quite a drinking culture within football from sort of the 50s through to the 90s, are George Best and Paul Gascoigne, right? Both like really, really high-profile footballers who are also really high-profile alcoholics. Now, obviously, George Best is way before pretty much any of our time we were even alive. And Gascoigne, for the vast majority of his career, was before most of us were either alive or into football. But you do hear people talk about how the sadness around what they were going through and how they just couldn't function without drinking all the time. And like the impact it's had on their lives since. Like, obviously George Best known for dying really, really early, right? In his like early 50s or something.
Had a liver transplant as well.
He had 2.
Two liver transplants.
So if you want to be really into it, Lloyd actually knows the guy that did the true transplants.
Oh wow!
Really?
Yeah. He's a very good friend of Lloyd's.
Okay.
But that would count as the fact that you had 2 liver transplants because
you're drinking so bad.
You've been drinking so much, and the fact that you've reached that stage where you have to have 2 separate liver transplants, and you're still not telling yourself that I need to stop.
Yeah, really sad.
It was so much harder during those days to get help. Like now, it's easier to talk. People are more regularly going to go and then the teams have to provide some sort of counselling or like therapy sessions. Whereas back then, there probably was
culture.
No one.
It was always encouraged that the people drink. Like, you hear about like people like Paul Mercer and people like that who and you listen to some of the people that Peter Crouch talks about this a lot on his podcast, because he was of the era where when he was a young footballer and he was coming through the academies, he was doing that at very much the end of the smoking, drinking culture around football, and then as he's progressed through his career, he then moved into the much more professional era of football, where there was really high intense scrutiny on like diet and exercise and physiotherapy and mental health and therapy and all those things. And he talks a lot about what he saw when he was a trainee, just the amount that people were like going out and drinking even before a game. Like professional footballers going out and having a drink before a game or having a smoke during a game.
Was it lack of education then? You said that maybe there's more education in because they do the academies now.
I think there's more money involved now. That's the problem. So these people have to be peak physical athletes because the amount of money that is being gambled on these people to stay fit and healthy. Whereas you can't have someone turn up hungover because they've been out on Friday night,
like a bit overweight or anything. Like imagine. I mean, people took the piss out of like Eden Hazard and stuff for like looking a bit fat or whatever because he didn't have a pristine 6-pack after one summer of not playing football or whatever. And then you look back at players then, and the players weren't 6-pack lean, mean grinner machines in the 90s and the 80s. They were there because they were technically good footballers who could play the game, not because they were like these peak physical athletes, which is where we are sort of now in that position where you could probably look at any football player in the world and they would be in the top 1% for 100-metre sprints, or the top 1% for box jumps, or the top 1% for throwing a ball, or any, because they are now so hyper-tuned to become these almost like robots on the pitch.
Do you think it's dangerous to almost restrict them from having alcohol from such a long period of time until they retire, and then they can suddenly drink?
Yeah.
And it's like they'll have no tolerance, because I think there are a few players that they've retired and they've just gone off the rails a little bit.
And so you see it, don't you? You see like some of the players are like
getting overweight as well.
Yeah, like I don't use Wayne Rooney as an example, but Ronaldinho's really good. Fraser
Ronaldinho,
Jamie O'Hara. There's loads.
Neville Southall,
Adam Brazil. There's loads of them.
Sammy Nasri.
Yeah, like there's loads, and you see like 3 years after their careers finished, they're like totally different people because they're now like overexposed to all the
things they
bad things, quote unquote, that they shouldn't have, or they haven't been allowed access to for the last 20 years of their careers. Yeah. So now they can have a double cheeseburger if they want, and a pint of beer and whatever, and then all of a sudden they go too far the wrong way and sort of hyperinflate themselves. And
so, how can we recognise the warning signs that somebody, even one of our friends, might have an addiction to alcohol?
I think just spending time with them is how you're going to have to recognise it. I don't think you're going to necessarily know what's going on behind closed doors, but when you're seeing them...
So you're changing their personality, I guess.
I think an important thing as well is when you can't just meet your mate and go bowling and not drink. You've got certain friends. I think it was you.
Yeah, you mentioned
I mentioned it in...
Yeah, you said about...
one of the first
in one of the podcasts. Where basically, you've got some people who you will only... They'll message you being like, oh, do you want to go for a beer? And then you're like, oh, no, should we go play some golf? Or play, like go bowling, do rock climbing, like a different activity. And they're like, oh, no, I don't really fancy it.
Yeah, it's going back to that thing we said last week, in the last couple of episodes, about body image, in the sense of our role as friends for anyone that is our friend is to be there to support them. You can't make people change. They have to want to do that themselves. So you suggesting let's do other activities is your way of trying to support them. But if they always say no to that, well, you can't make somebody not want to go to the pub all the time.
I think you said in the second episode something, Chesney, about the fact that your friendship group has got smaller, and like when you don't rely more on drinking, you actually find out who your friends are, maybe to more a certain extent. So, for example, you have friends who will, like Adam was saying, will go out and do stuff that isn't necessarily drink related, but also then you can kind of, I guess, weed out the friends who are just kind of using you as like a drinking buddy, I guess, as well.
But there is another aspect to it of you can go the other way, and it can manifest into aggression, and that's mainly what I saw when I was a lot younger, being very small and stuff. I always got little man syndrome, so I would always find the biggest person I could find, and for no reason, sometimes pick a fight on them and just go for it. And I was in my 20s. And that got me into some bad situations. I do regret a lot of that. But I'm very protective when it comes to my friends. So if my friends become in a confrontation, I push them all out the way and start to escalate it even more. And I don't know why I do it. And that's a really bad trait to have with alcohol. And as I've gotten older, I've become more the fact I don't want to do that. So I guess that's why I don't drink as much anymore.
So you feel like that trait was elevated by drinking?
Yeah, it elevated my confidence in my ability of fighting.
Sort of take anyone on.
Yeah, it's obviously got me in trouble because I've been kicked out numerous clubs and pubs and stuff for that. And it might have not even escalated into a fight. It was just talking and not backing down, because obviously it's a trait of me as a man to be like that alpha, I'm not going to back down kind of thing. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but
it's how you feel, isn't it?
It's important that we highlight there's not just positives from alcohol, there's also negatives, and I think it's vital that we get that across as well.
I think it's like you say, you have sometimes when you're a bit merry and someone looks at you the wrong way, sometimes, like you say, you do get your back up. You could have a fight and you could end up doing either someone some serious damage, or you could get hurt, you could get arrested, you could get a record, you could then... And it's just... It could change your life, literally, just from that one moment where the alcohol's heightened your
confidence
and then just change your life like that.
I think, yeah, you're right. And I think a lot of it changed for me is when I found out that somebody I went to school with was out, funny enough, in Manchester. And they got into a confrontation and the gentleman hit him and he fell awkwardly onto the pavement and he died. And that was just one hit. And
Is there a show about those one punch death or something? Is it called like that? No, I remember watching that. That was
yeah, but that wasn't my friend. But
That was
yeah, we
like someone who we knew from football.
Yeah.
So it was from that moment I was like, okay, there is ramifications to being an absolute idiot.
But you've recognised
that.
that.
I say it's strong to recognise that, and then for you to make a change
Conscious
or a
decision,
decision around that, I think is sort of a testament to your character and your sort of perception of that.
People are different on different drinks.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
someone who will know, if I have whiskey or something, I do get a little bit aggressive, and so they won't have whiskey. Like that's
interesting.
Sometimes,
I don't know if it's a myth or not. Like everyone talks about getting like wine drunk feels different to other drunks, doesn't it?
No, I think
definitely is a thing.
Isn't it like scientifically? It doesn't feel like it should be a thing, right? Is it more just becomes like a volume versus like? Do you feel different because when you have 5 beers, you've got loads of liquid in you, so you get like gassy and bloated, and you go for a wee a lot. And then compared to a bottle of wine, you don't. And compared to whiskey, you don't. Like
a different alcohol's different percentages of like it's like lager's made up of like 90% water, isn't it?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's like a whiskey made up of different.
Well, I wouldn't. I mean, like chemically,
ingredients.
it's still got the ethanol part of it, which is the alcohol part, which is the thing that gets you drunk, right? And then their other ingredients are still mostly water, and then whatever the thing is that gives the flavour, so the grapes or the wheat or the oak or the barley or the apples or whatever it might be, the thing that's provided the sugar in the first place to make it alcoholic. So I'm not saying I disagree with you. Like I definitely think I feel different. Like if I drink vodka soda limes all night compared to if I drink like a bottle of wine. But I also think I can't help but think there might be to do with the thing that I'm drinking with it. So like having some alcohol and then lots of soda water, I feel different to drinking like Guinness, which has not as much water in it, and you feel more heavy and bloated. That might then change.
I'm sure someone's done a study on it somewhere. It'd be
Yeah,
quite interesting
it
to
would be
see
interesting
that.
to know.
like I know at least one friend who doesn't drink spirits because he changes.
Gets angry on the
He
spirits.
changes on spirits.
Yeah.
And he's not the same person.
Yeah.
Which again,
Do you think it might be because he doesn't? Because like me and you said this other day, where when you start going to say Spider-Man and Coke, you're not drinking them really quickly because it's a smaller volume liquid and it's really, really strong. So in an hour, you might drink 3 of those, whereas before you might have only drunk 1 pint of beer. So it might be more to it in the setting that he's drinking them in. He's more like seeing them off. So he escalates to that level of really drunkenness more quickly. Whereas if you have beers, it might take him 4 hours to get.
The volume of alcohol within the blood system.
And like the rapid increase in it, I wonder if maybe that might be the reason that might be the
Quick
case.
chemical change.
Yeah, I'm wondering if possibly that kind of thing. But no, I do agree. There are definitely people out there that you see them drink one type of drink or not, and there are some changes. I can remember specifically as a kid, there were lots of adverts about certain things, but it feels like it goes through peaks and troughs as to what the government feels like it should tell you is good and bad.
Yeah.
So like for a long time as a kid, there was definitely periods where there was like alcohol wasn't very good for you and smoking wasn't very good for you. There were lots of adverts on the telly about alcohol and smoking. Then it was about like bicycles and motorbikes and not crashing those. But now if I watch the TV, I can't remember the last time I seen a like government advert about drinking or smoking or about bikes.
I think it's betting now, isn't it? At the
Yeah,
moment?
nearly. But even then, they're not government adverts. They're the betting adverts. They didn't have to make in a advert for themselves, but they also have to talk about like, let's say it's the gambling. What's it called?
Gambling awareness.
Gambling awareness. Big gambling awareness. Then they make their advert. They're not government. They're not government backed. They're like their own company. Right? That's not like the people who run the BBC don't put those kind of things on. But I just don't remember back then. But those sort of adverts were quite bad. We've all talked about a Batman advert. When was the last time there was an advert about drinking?
But what I think is obviously you see a lot of the gambling aware. Live football is what we probably watch. I don't watch that much TV anymore. I watch like Netflix.
But do you watch like YouTube? Because YouTube now are like really heavy on adverts. There's no adverts about there are places to do it ways around it, or like on Instagram, or like I'm like you. I don't see much live television, so I wouldn't absorb many adverts on TV. But I definitely watch lots of YouTube and lots of Spotify who put adverts through on podcasts and lots of like Instagram posts. Why isn't there like a be drink aware kind of?
But a lot of that is
advert.
I guess with YouTube and stuff, probably the government don't have too much to do with it. It's not.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That would be the change that you'd make, though, isn't it? That would be the change that we then maybe would like to see.
Yeah.
Is that would be potentially one way of just maybe raising that awareness. It feels like there are definitely hot topics depending on what year it is and what's going on around the world and things in terms of what the government chooses to remind us about or not.
So we've spoken a lot about positives and the negatives. What about the coping mechanisms and the support that we can have? So I know, Rory, you explained that you would use it as a coping mechanism, but is there another way that we could help people adopt, or even ourselves adopt, instead of turning to alcohol? So for me, I would probably turn to video games, because a lot of my friends play video games, and that's a great escape for me.
I think outdoors, anything. So like, I'm with you. I very much use online gaming and stuff with my friends as a way to probably escape the day-to-day life. Like when you're doing a high-stress job, Monday to Friday, coming home and having that sort of hour or two, rather than having a drink. I'm very much in the video game way. But I think if you ever get to a point where I was struggling more, I think anything outdoorsy would just be nice. So just going for hikes, fishing, golf, football, outdoor drinking if it was getting, at the top of a mountain, water, outdoor drinking of water. I think outdoors away from a city is always nice. I really enjoy the time that I go and spend with Gare when I go visit in North Wales. Even though it's not necessarily about escaping drinking, but it is just about escaping sort of that inner London life and things which it brings to you. And it's nice just to go outside and smell really clean, fresh air and go hiking up mountains and stuff and go climbing in the woods and fishing. I think anything like that is good for the soul. So if you're ever struggling with alcohol, I think that'd probably be a good shout.
That sport, I think, is a big one.
Yeah. But do you feel like
smoking,
sport
drugs,
and
all devices
all at the same time?
Wow, we were going into a nice conversation then, and then Steve cut that.
I think you probably have to cut that.
I don't even have a can. But do you think that sometimes, as we've already explained, sport and alcohol kind of go hand in hand? So if you're going to go to a live football match, you're going to tend to maybe go and have a beer before, during and after.
I don't have a... No. If I go to a football match, I think the fact that I can't really buy a beer... Well, I can't sit and have a beer watching the game. I'm like, I'm not going to drink.
Before or after?
Maybe before.
But
before
I think during the game, you're right.
But that's
during
just
the game,
football, that is, though. Just don't forget. So if you go and watch rugby, you can drink in the stand. If you watch cricket, you can drink in the stand. If you play darts, you're almost borderline there.
I want to go to the darts.
I want to go to the darts.
Yeah.
Not for drinking.
We've been to all the boxing events. We went to wrestling at Wembley. And
so I think
where you can drink.
Yeah, so it's the only.
But we haven't. Me and Adam don't really drink at those events, really.
No, but would that be your escape? So if you thought you were going to go into a position where you might be drinking too much, would you just go and watch lots of wrestling?
Oh no, sorry, yeah, kind of got up to it. No, it's more the fact that when you were saying, sports.
Yeah,
sports.
I'm saying playing sports.
Yeah, playing.
As opposed
sports.
to going down playing goals on a Tuesday, having a kick around, playing golf. I know, obviously, again, sometimes people have a beer after, but that
during
that is still a bit of an escape, I think, and. You can.
It's easy to avoid. I think, if it's you with one other mate playing golf and he says, "Do you want a beer?" you could say, "No, I don't want a beer," and that's very fine. It's harder when you're maybe playing on a Saturday and you've got 13 teammates who are all there in the bar having a beer. That's a little bit
plus other teams who've got like 40 mates that just sat on that, or loose friends, got 40 people that are having a time.
So I think
and like goals midweek as well. A lot of people obviously work the next day, so it's not usually going to be a big session.
No, exactly. Steve and I go always have a Coke, don't we? We have a Coke or a Diet Coke.
It's more refreshing sometimes.
It is.
Especially on a weekday. It is.
Yeah, it was nice.
I guzzle lemonade.
Yeah, it does. Flies down there.
Yeah. But you're saying about coping mechanism, but it's about any specific thing that will happen. So you mentioned about like breaking up. Not that you're going to do it.
Yeah.
But if you know, hypothetically broke
Rory,
up.
why are you winking?
I actually think that maybe mine would turn towards my thought process would be that I'm not good enough, and so in order for me to feel like I can find someone else again, I think I would work hard on myself in terms of the gym, like get as fit as I can. So I think I'd probably actually cut alcohol completely.
So you're going gym, high exercise.
I think so. Same as a sport,
mechanism.
but it would be like I think for me it'd almost be cold turkey.
But you're talking about breaking up there, aren't you? What
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, I would like to pose. Remember, when I said that was my game visit, the question was asked if we were to break it up.
No, okay.
Yeah.
So
that's more for Becky's sake.
We're really sorry, Becky.
Let's
we didn't want it to come through like this.
Yeah.
So we're talking hypothetically there of breakups. What about coping mechanisms for a loss of a loved one?
So for that's just that. For me, that's having family around, but also that maybe would be a couple of drinks. But also because I think my family would, they would have a drink. So if I'm going to my family, it depends on who the loss is, but if I was with my family,
Drinking for my brother, am I? I'm not going to drink for my brother if he dies.
We're staying in.
That's what I'm saying. I'm joking.
Cut. But you were saying that your family have a couple of drinks, but it's tradition at the wake to have a drink and to toast the family member.
yes, well, there's a toast. Yes, I'm not saying like my family drink a lot. Like we've had a loss. By the way, my family are fucking bang on it every day. Like, I've got to get involved. No, they're not like that. They just do it every weekend.
And Wednesdays.
But no, it is a toast though, isn't it? And it's like you're not going to toast with a cup of tea. It doesn't feel like a toast.
That's the wake though, because I think the question always is how do you deal with the initial thing. So the only time I've had someone who's like in my sort of either close or somewhat close family die when I've been in a position where drinking is like normalised was when I was at uni, and my nan died, and I was actually getting ready to go on like a night out with everyone, and then my dad called me up and said, like, we knew she was ill, it wasn't like a sudden thing, you know, in her 80s. And I did immediately just like, wow, that is sort of, how do you even just stand there and absorb it? And so I did then just go like, right, fuck it, and just started pouring massive drinks out and just smashing, like just to get as immediately fucked as I could. And Gary and Martin, we would live together in third year, so they came down and was like checking I was okay, so I was like, yeah. But I think it just numbs that initial sensation of feeling.
And you don't want to be alone, do you?
You don't want to be alone, and that I don't think hiking up a mountain would something make me feel better in that occasion.
And it's that time of the week where we talk about the Old Wilsonians Football Club and how we got on this weekend. We do have only one team here this week, and that's the Threes. I'm going to pass you over to Stephen Pearce, captain of the Threes 11, to talk about the game.
Yeah, thanks, Chesney. Came in, I was also managing the game. Both our managers were away, otherwise engaged. Clearly don't care about the club enough.
Very important Chesney this week.
Yeah, so we went with a back three. We were going with high fullbacks to put the pressure on. Started well, had lots of attacks. They then got a goal. I think we levelled it at 1-1.
Yeah.
Went down. Ryan. Was it then we went down to 10 men, Rory? I see you give me a sheepy sort of look there.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's when we got sin binned. Rory got a sin bin, down to 10 men. Then had difficulties rearranging the team. Ended up going into the half time at 3-1 down. Came back out second half, invigorated. Yeah, another good word that.
Adam gave a big speech.
Made some changes, put the pressure on. Went 3-2, went 4-3 down. I think we then went 4-3 and then 5-3 down. They wanted it more. We weren't good enough on the day, and we will rectify that going forward.
Great.
That was all about refereeing decisions.
No, I don't want to blame the ref. I don't want to blame the ref. Adam did. I don't want to blame the ref.
But he was poor.
He was poor, but we were poor.
We were.
And we've been a lot better than that. And I'm looking forward to playing them at home.
Yeah, looking forward to turn leg. Fuck you, Merton.
Another highlight of mine there was Adam moaning at the bench for arguing with the ref, despite
really
standing there in silence.
From left wing, as we were on the right hand side of the pitch, getting shouted at by ex-captain Adam Benwell.
Reason why he's ex-captain.
Oh, I'm not a fan of it.
I feel like he's just been bullied, isn't it?
But we're your network if you want to talk about it.
If you want to share a beer with us and discuss. Okay, and as we have done every week, we're going to say cheers to the end of the podcast, and in memory of Terry Venables, ex-England manager, who has passed away this weekend. So cheers to Terry.
Cheers. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Not So Old Boys podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. And also, don't forget to follow us on social media for updates and content. You can find us on Instagram at Not So Old Boys. And finally, if you have any questions or suggestions for future episodes, please send us a message. We love hearing from you.